Good evening. Welcome to the September 29th, 2025 meeting. The time is 7:02. Present are Vadim, Catherine, Alex, and myself, Theda, and student board members Claire from Mountain View High and Lucy from Los Altos High. Now let's rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second?
I second.
Okay, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
All in favor? That's 4-0. In closed session, the board voted 4-0 to approve a compromise agreement with parents of a student to resolve potential and threatened claims against the district in exchange for $18,400 for students' primary placement tuition during the 2025-2026 year. This meeting is being recorded and streamed. A friendly reminder about the microphones. They glow bright green when live and light blue when on standby. We move on to 7.0 communications and 7.1 student board member reports. Lucy from Los Altos High, it's your turn to go first.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share a quick recap of what's been happening on campus over the past 2 weeks. It's been a busy and spirited time for our school community. First, we wrapped up the school day today with a fantastic homecoming rally. The energy was incredible, both last week and this week. It's been amazing to see the creativity and collaboration happening after school hours, and students came together in full spirit, dressed out for a Hogwarts House's theme, with performances from the cheer team, band, and lots of participation in the new rally games that ASB has spent the past few weeks designing. It really set the tone as we head into the big weekend. Leading up to this, students have been working hard on float building and homecoming preparations. From painting banners to pumping floats, every class has really stepped up. And of course, everyone's buzzing with excitement for the homecoming dance this Saturday. It's a big highlight of the fall semester, and students are ready to celebrate alongside our theme of timeless classics. ASB has made sure everything's in place to make it a safe and fun night. Last week, we also hosted an inspiring STEAM Week speaker series, which gave students a chance to explore and learn about unique real-world applications of science and technology. We had engaging presentations on 3D printing, AI and YouTube algorithms, and even the engineering of organic natural cosmetics alongside other things. With the professional speakers, we also had presentations and activities led by some of our advanced scientific investigation students and some STEAM club leaders. All in all, it's been a wonderful couple of weeks, full of learning, school spirit, and community engagement. Thank you to our staff, volunteers, and students for making it all happen. That concludes my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Lucy? Okay, next we move on to Claire from Mountain View High School.
Hello, MVLA board. It has been a busy few weeks at Mountain View with much more to come. On the leadership side of campus, ambassadors have been active in welcoming and engaging the community. They hosted a transfer picnic for the new students of campus and a Latinx Spartan Pause this past Friday, which featured snacks, a lively folklorico dance, and cultural activities. Our school has also welcomed groups such as Woven by Toyota and visiting students from Brazil, the Brazil students getting a tour of campus from our own MVHS tech interns. Speaking of the tech internship, they recently hosted a successful AI parent night with a student and staff panel, drawing over 80 attendees. Clubs have been equally busy, with highlights including the first instrumental music performance of the year this past weekend and the Green Team's Walker Wheel event promoting sustainable transportation. Most notably, this week is homecoming at Mountain View. Our theme is Enchanted Nights. We kick things off with a fun-filled rally, featuring performances from Dance Spectrum and Cheer, fun games, and the introduction of the 25 to 26 homecoming court through a choreographed dance and video showcase. Lunchtime activities will continue this week to help students get to know the court members. On Thursday, classes will gather to prepare their float for Friday's homecoming parade, which will feature sports teams, clubs, and the court. The day will also include a halftime show during the home varsity football game that day, which will feature more performances and the announcement of this year's homecoming royalty. The week will culminate with our homecoming dance on Saturday in the auxiliary gym from 7 to 10 p.m. Looking ahead, next week will be a short one with only 3 days of school, including the PSAT testing day marking the close of the first quarter. Overall, it has been an exciting and spirited start to the school year, full of community engagement and celebration. We are looking forward to the next weeks ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Claire?
I'll make a comment. I was part of the AI event that the tech interns team has put on, and I want to share it was an absolutely outstanding job by our students and by Dr. Glazer. So huge thank you guys for having that. I could see that it was very enriching to the parents, very interesting. I'll say that I myself learned a thing or two, so it was quite interesting, and I look forward to seeing many more wonderful events and the expansion of the program.
I just wanted to say on behalf of all the trustees that we're very excited to participate in both high schools' homecoming parades. Okay, next we move on to 7.2 district organizations. Do we have any members from CSCA or DTA? Okay, no. Next we move on to public comments on items not on the agenda. My understanding is we have some comments. So first we have, and I'm sorry if I can't quite read this. I think it's Makiko Rami. Sorry, I just couldn't quite read the letter. Is that? Yeah, I think that's you. So I'm sorry, I just couldn't quite read it. Sorry about that. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So I was just wanting to talk about the parking situation, and I was hearing that there is conversations going on about converting the current tennis courts that were to be returned to the tennis team to be converted into parking lots, and wondering if that option is still on the plate and whether or not we're considering if that's solving the problems of all the congestions that's going on in Almond that I've been hearing there have been accidents. And also seeing if, that's going to really address the problems of the parking. You just keep on going until, yeah.
So the board cannot answer questions on
Okay.
items not on the agenda to answer your question.
Yeah. Like ever since the parkings have been closed on all the streets around the neighborhood, I did feel that, yes, the students have been lacking parking spots. I don't know if that was the reason because of neighborhood reasons, but just reducing that was not helping any of the students. And again, just using a space that was to be returned to the tennis teams and even the community who are using those courts every week, I don't think would be helping address the problem. So it would be great if we could think of another situation that we can consider to increase more parking spaces for the students who are really needing to drive to school rather than just using a space that was to be changed back to parking lots after clearing the construction. Yeah, that's just my comment.
All right.
Yeah.
And just to make it clear, that's due to the Brown Act. That is not a board policy. It is due to the Brown Act, though we can't answer or comment on questions or comments not on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. So we now move on, and hopefully I'll get this name correct. Oh, Maureen Griffith.
Hi, I'm not sure if it is on the agenda, but I'm just going to talk about the tennis courts. I am in favor of converting, well, as I understand it now, I read the article last week. I just am in favor of tennis courts being in existence for our students at Los Altos High School. There's currently 6. I understand that 2 are out of commission because they're storing construction. So I'm telling you that I would like all of those tennis courts dedicated to our students of Los Altos High School. Thank you.
Okay, next we have, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name, Laura Largi. Did I pronounce her name correctly? Largi, thank you.
So good evening. So I'm a member of the LHS Sustainability Committee. I'm a tennis player, and I'm here to ask you to please do not convert the 4 tennis court into a parking spot. Why? First, because the tennis courts in discussion are near the east driveway on Jardy, where the traffic is already super congested. Adding additional parking spot would only make an additional mess, and it would create risk, pollution, and make nobody happy. You can imagine additional 80 kids trying to get to a parking spot with already what's happening there. Please don't do that. Second reason, the tennis courts are very valuable for the community and for the school. They are full of people, used by everybody. I queue all the time there. We're all looking forward to have the tennis court back. Please don't take them away from us. I think that adding parking spot is not a solution, because in a year or 2, we're gonna be here again and need other parking spots. We can't turn all the school in a parking spot. The solution is to try to better work with the parking permit, make sure that who needs the spot has the spot, and the other people who live close by walk or bike. So please, when you take your decision, support the school, support the community. I know that the city has made this decision. We fought against this decision. We don't think it's the right solution. The roads are done to park legally, but to park. We have suggested to put lanes so people could park legally and to ticket who doesn't park legally. So please support the school, support the community, and don't turn this tennis court in parking spot. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Luke Byrne.
Hi, my name is Luke Byrne, and I'm representing the LHS Green Team. So I'll be talking about the parking too. I don't believe that this extra parking will act as a service to anyone in the long term. It'll only fill up, and that will encourage more people to drive. And the more easy we make it for people to drive, the more people will drive, the more congestion there will be. I think that the resources could be used in way better ways, such as implementing a protected larger bike lane on San Antonio, where I remember going to Egan when I was in middle school. It was treacherous. I almost got hit by cars many times. But we need to make sure that kids have safe alternatives to get to school other than driving. I also personally know many people who live within a mile of the school who drive to school, and they're taking up parking spaces for people who actually need it. And yeah, this is not going to be a productive use of the land. There are so many better uses. The tennis courts are used, I've heard, for every weekend they're full. People have had to stay on the sidelines more and not be able to play. And by making these tennis courts into parking spaces, we'll be compromising a lot of kids' educational and physical health. They can't play. Not as many people can be on the tennis teams, and that's also affecting their future and their applications and their ability to play the sport. So I would think about the real implications this has on students of the LHS. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Wolfgang Hoffman.
Thank you. I am a resident of Los Altos and the parent of 2 Los Altos high school graduates. And so through my kids, we as a family have had firsthand experience of what an asset these tennis courts are to the students, to the community. They started out when they had 12 courts, and we saw how important it was for them when they made the transition from middle school to high school to have the opportunity to play sports, to be part of a team, to make friendships, to build their self-confidence. We've seen with our younger child how that was impacted when there were 8 courts, and how access and ability to participate and the ability to find their place in the high school community became more difficult for the kids that were not super athletic, right? So it became much more selective. And I'm telling you this to give you maybe a personal perspective of what an asset these tennis courts are to the students, to the school, and to ask you to preserve that asset that's there, that is of value to them, has been of value to the students in the past, and to not take that away from the students of the future. Thank you.
Next we have Sybil Kramer.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you tonight. I know several of you, but some of you don't know me and you're new to me, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Sybil Kramer. I'm a parent, have been a parent volunteer, and now I'm an alumna volunteer at Los Altos High School working with the Green Team. Luke is co-president of the Green Team, and I noticed he biked here tonight from way across far away. I also established the Los Altos High School PTSA Sustainability Committee, and it's still going strong. And Laura is the co-chair, or has been the co-chair of that committee. So we are very committed. I've served on the district sustainability panel under 2 former superintendents, and hopefully under this superintendent as well. So regarding the present issue, I'm urging the board to veto this idea of turning the tennis courts into parking lots for several reasons. It's against reason to exchange a healthy outdoor activity for students to bring pollution spewing and greenhouse gas spewing vehicles to a place that's next to the playing fields. So these parking lots would be next to the soccer field, next to the softball field. Field hockey plays there. And also kids sometimes during break just come out, and after school they hang out there, and cars will be pulling out of a parking lot. I think this is a bad idea. As we already heard, the tennis courts provide fresh air, aerobic exercise for students, and especially for, as the town crier pointed out, Los Altos has an outstanding tennis team. But it's not just the tennis team, it's a lot of students who use those courts. So I know that there's a problem with parking around the school, and I know I and some other parents and a cohort of students, not just from the Green Team, but students who drive as well and need parking places. I would like to assemble that group, and we'll talk to the city council officials. Plus, I think it's a terrible waste of money to dig up the, anyway. I think it was Joni Mitchell who said, they paved paradise to put up a parking lot. We want to keep our little corner of paradise where the tennis courts are. Thank you for listening.
Next we have Sahilja Pamer.
Hi, my name's Celia Pamer. I'm a resident of Mountain View in Varsity Park and a future parent of an MVLA student. I took a picture of the MVLA 6-year goals, but I didn't need to because they're up on the wall. And so I'm going to quote those in terms of talking about converting the tennis courts to parking lots. So if we look up there, it says the second one is cultivating a respectful, caring school climate that promotes wellness and inclusion, develops life skills and self-expression. Wellness is not about driving your car to school. Wellness is about having a team, being able to play with other students, engage outside actively. It's good for mental health. Talking about inclusion, when we did our transportation survey in 2023, only about 10% of students drive to school. And considering the average cost of a car per year is $12,000, according to AAA, we can imagine that the students who are able to drive to school are not necessarily going to be all the students that we want to be serving. We want to serve all students, not just a small minority. And all students get to use the tennis courts. And all students are out there at PE. I know there's talk of converting one to a basketball court so that there's even more access for more students during lunchtime. But it shouldn't be a parking lot for the few students who have the most funds. Finally, on the last 6-year goal up there, we have being fiscally responsible in budgeting while providing personnel and facilities that optimize teaching and learning. A parking lot does not facilitate learning. Tennis courts do. And so in terms of our 6-year goals, I hope we don't have to come up on WASC next time and say, we didn't do 2 of them. We built a parking lot. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Steve Appelberg. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. I spoke to you last year. I was representing tennis and cross country. My name is Steve Appelberg. I am a tennis coach at Los Altos High School. This is my 8th season. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight, and I know you have a lot to think about with this decision. So first of all, I want to apologize for my attire. I'm coming straight from a match that we just had that ran long, and I wanted to make sure I was here to talk about this topic. I also wanted to say how great it is to see so many of our community members who play on the courts and parents of current and former players here. And very nice to see one of our current varsity players, who's Lucy Lai, who's also a student representative for Los Altos High School on the board. So obviously I'm biased, so I can just start by saying we want all 12 courts, but getting that aside, I just wanted you to hear, I know there's a lot to think about on both sides. So here's the data on the tennis side and the coach's perspective. I know there's no Q&A here, but I'm happy to answer any questions down the road if you have any. There's an unbelievable amount of usage, so I want to represent both the team and the community, and I'll talk about both. So from a team perspective, as you know, we're coming off a great year, but in my 8 years, our varsity hasn't even always been in the upper level of the league. Even when we're not a great team, for some reason in this community, we have an unbelievable number of students who try out for this team. That never wavers. It doesn't matter if our last season was amazing or not. And I don't know what it is. It's way more, and I've been doing this a long time. It's way more than any other program. So we typically have 50 to 60 players who come out for the team. Most teams between their varsity and junior varsity have about 24 to 28. So 12 to 14 per team. We have 42. Okay, so my co-coach and I go as far as we can for this great sport, but there's only so much you can do with the court space in terms of having an effective practice. So some of the girls that I had to cut this fall, they can hit the ball in 20 times in a row. I go play these other schools. They would totally be on almost every other junior varsity team that we play. And it's really unfortunate. So, and we feed our junior varsity, even on a state finalist team, we had former JV players who came up on that team. We're the only one who does. So our JV program is very important for our whole kind of the whole program at Los Altos. The community, when I left tonight, there was 45 minutes of light before dark. The courts were packed. As soon as our match was over and the public was allowed to go, all 8 courts are being used. If you go tomorrow morning before school, probably at least 4 of the courts, if not 8, will be used. So there's just tons of demand, and we could do a lot more with the program if we had 12 courts. Thanks for considering.
Okay, next we have Fernando Mojica.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Fernando Mujica. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about the tennis court situation. And a resident of Los Altos. I have 3 kids. We've been using those tennis courts since we moved to the area in 2014. My second child, Sophia, was in the varsity tennis team. She ended up being the captain her senior year, working with Steve. My son, Andy, is currently a sophomore. We've been in those courts every single week since we moved in the area, with some exceptions here and there, sometimes Saturday and Sunday. Those courts were packed when we had 12 courts. And when we reduced them to 8, there was a period of time where, the waits were long, and, few of the hardcore families like mine stick around and wait, for a tennis court to enjoy with their kids. But I could see many of our youngsters that maybe didn't have the patience, and they just turn around, right, over time. And, so I think we lost some of the kids to the sport because there is just no availability. As Steve mentioned, the courts are packed all the time. When the tennis team is playing, immediately after they leave, we are there. I mean, the community wants to use the courts. I witnessed with my kids that are in the tennis team how the practice lessons have to be longer because there are fewer courts, and there's a limited amount of availability of the number of kids that can play at a given time with only 8 courts. So more of the kids have to wait. So we have a lot of demand. The kids love the sport. Steve and the coaches must have been doing something amazing in terms of like the culture of the team, because they just love it, right? I can tell for 2 of my kids that have been in the team, they just love the atmosphere. So what they have created for the community is amazing. And I think I would love to see more of our kids participate, in the tennis teams. But as a sport, I mean, I'm just a parent. I never played, other than just on my own with my kids. I love the sport, and I would love to see more of our kids take advantage of the course. It's a fantastic sport. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal recently that rated it one of the best sports in terms of like, practice for, healthy living. And it's a sport that you can play until, very advanced age. At least I'm hoping that I can do that. So anyway, I really want to thank you for the time, give me the opportunity to talk to you today. And I really will like you to consider giving the courts back to the high school. Thank you.
Next, we have Heather Boyle.
Hello, I'm Heather Boyle, and I teach health and formerly positive psychology at Mountain View High School. I'm here to describe the need for quality health education for all of our students and how we can make that happen in MVLA. MVLA has had a 1-semester health graduation requirement for many decades. Historically, most students paired it with a 1-semester social studies class. Unfortunately, as our social studies requirements have changed, more and more of our students have been taking an online class that is often described as poor quality and out of date. Once ethnic studies began as a 1-year requirement, there was no clear place for health in students' schedules, resulting in a 25% drop in students taking in-seat health at MVHS. Students report feeling that having 0 1-semester courses to pair with health forces them to either overload themselves 1 semester by taking 6.5 classes in a year, or to take 5.5 classes in a year, which they think will look bad to colleges. This results in many students feeling forced into taking health through the online course. The California Department of Education recommends having students take a semester of health in the 9th grade. As the state has recently added more health ed laws requiring comprehensive mental health education and fentanyl education, MVLA is becoming more and more out of compliance with health ed laws because the online programs are not regularly updated and they do not only market themselves in our state, so they don't necessarily change their curricula as our state requires more health ed requirements. These are critical requirements that all of our students need. We can use mostly research-based or proven effective curricula published by organizations like Stanford's Reach Lab, Health Connected's Teen Talk, Erica's Lighthouse, etc. And I am a nationally board certified health teacher and formerly an instructional support teacher in San Francisco Unified. If MVLA opted to change the requirements to be 1 semester of social studies and 1 semester of health in seat in grade 9, I would be happy to train some of our experienced MVLA teachers to teach those additional health ed courses. I believe teachers can teach outside of their credential area for 1 year, allowing them time to prepare for the CSET test in order to add a health credential. My estimate suggests that in the first year, this would likely result in 0 loss of FTE of our wonderful social studies teachers. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have in the future.
Peter Boyle.
Hi, my name is Peter Boyle. I'm a parent of a Mountain View High School 9th grader and a 7th grader at Block. I'm here because my son actually signed up for in-seat health and positive psychology this year. And like many students, he was not able to take positive psychology because the course was dropped, even though 30 students had signed up for it. And that left him in the situation of not having a hole in his schedule. And so he didn't want to not have the hole in his schedule. So that meant that he chose to take health at a later year in hopes that positive psychology or a 1 semester course would be available to him to pair with health. So we'd like to see that be improved so that he can take health with a full course load in the future. Thank you.
Okay, next, Stephanie Janensen. Steffi? She not here? Sorry? Yes, that's you.
Hi, so I'm Steffi Ganesen. I'm a community member for almost 20 years now, have a 10th and a 12th grader. They do not play tennis. They do go to Los Altos High School, but I'm more here as a community member. And I was very involved with the Jordan parking issue and all of that stuff. Removing tennis courts and putting parking spots there seems like an easy solution for the outcry that was there from the neighborhood, but it's not. You still have over 1,500 students that need to go to school. The issue is primarily the volume, the type of vehicle, e-bikes and all of that that's going on, and driver behavior. Driver behavior is the worst, okay? I will say that, and I see it every morning. I have a 12th grader. He questioned his friends. Most of them do not have a parking permit. Most of them do not play tennis. We asked 12 people, they would not prefer parking spots over, and they do drive, okay? If you have not gone to Los Altos High School, and like it was said, the tennis courts are in full use all the time. Also, residents would like to use the tennis courts. I don't know if they will ever be a little bit converted to pickleball, but that's another story, which is very super popular. But I want to say I urge you to really go there and look at it. At back to school night, the buzzing that was going on at Los Altos High, in the pool, in the tennis courts, everything was packed. And hearing the noises of what's going on, that's what what a high school is supposed to represent to the community. It's not supposed to represent parking spots, okay? So please reevaluate really the concern and what a true solution is for the whole issue and all the neighborhood, concerns that there were. It is not replacing tennis courts with parking spots. Thank you so much.
Okay. We move on to 8.0 recognitions and resolutions with 8.1, our annual recognition of administrators. Our superintendent, Eric Volta, began as a teacher and has devoted his entire career to education. He represents the norm at MVLA. The collective years of experience, dedication, excellence, and continuous improvement of our administrators are outstanding. We also recognize that MVLA operates with lean management, having far fewer administrators than other sectors. Do I have a motion to approve 8.1?
I motion that we approve 8.1.
Second? Okay, moved by Alex, seconded by Catherine. Do I have any comments or questions about this resolution?
I may make one
okay,
comment.
Sure.
Short one. We couldn't do it without the administrators. I mean, they are the middle layer. The board makes policy decisions and hopefully follows our goals and makes certain other decisions. The teachers teach and the classified folks run the school on a day-to-day basis, but the administrators are the ones in the middle that make it all happen. They manage the things, they lead the people on their staffs. So I just want to say it's great that there is such a thing as administrator recognition. And so we're happy to recognize you.
+1.
Great. All right. So, Lucy, how do you vote?
I approve.
Claire, how do you vote?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-0. Okay, now we move on to 9.0, informational presentation reports and information. So,
Ms. President, we have some public comment cards. Do you want to hear that before the presentation or after?
and before I do that, I would like to address the community. I would like to let you know that this is an informational presentation by Associate Superintendent Terry Fott on behalf of social study teachers about ethnic studies. The board will have several meetings about ethnic studies, including from staff. The board has agreed to not to begin discussing board action on ethnic studies until our next meeting on October 13th, when the full board will be present. People are looking like they couldn't hear. Did you hear that? Okay. All right. Yeah, you can see this empty chair here. Okay. So our first comment is from Thomas Morgan.
Thank you. This may be the last time I appear before the board, so I just want to start by saying thank you so much. I'm the father of a senior at Mountain View High. She has thrived at Mountain View. She was very nervous as a freshman. Slowly through cross country, I learned about the turkey trot, selling Christmas trees. She went with her club twice to LA, once to nationals in Iowa last summer. She has thrived. My wife and I come out of back to school inspired by the teachers. The Teachers at Mountain View Los Altos are professionals. They are paid very well. And unfortunately, it's still not enough to be in the Bay Area, but they inspire me. We had her AP bio teacher came in on a Saturday and taught all the kids to prep them for the test. So I bring that up because I'm also part of the LPO. For 3 years, I've worked with AVID students. This year, I'm working with juniors and seniors. I'm originally from Mexico, and I'm not first gen. My father went to college. My mom, who's a public school teacher, went to school when I was growing up. But I believe in the importance of ethnic studies. And I just wanted to bring that to give some context to the letter we presented. And I'm going to try in 1 minute to talk about a really complicated thing. This last year has been a Donnybrook of just hate, misinformation, all the world's problems dumped on us. I'd say the last 15 years. My wife and I sometimes say we want to just shut everything off and ignore the world. Ethnic studies allows students with those professional teachers to tackle issues that we're being bombarded with on our phones, in the media, in an academic setting, looking at historical events. So not what happened last week, in a way that they can kind of unpack and think of this. So I just want to tell you just how important ethnic studies is. As a parent, as a community, as educators, we want to give our kids, our students, those analytical abilities. And I think ethnic studies is so important. And it also, as the data says, inspires kids from the freshman year to go to college. The numbers are there. Thank you.
Just to let you know, there's a timer on the right, so you need to keep an eye on the timer because there's no noise. There's a pop-up, just to let you know. Just to be fair to all community members, you have 3 minutes to speak. So Antonio Perez Lopez.
My name is Antonio Perez, happy parent of student of 10th grade. On behalf of Latino Parents Outreach LPO of Mountain View High School, we express our strong concern and wholehearted support to the continuation of ethnic studies course in our district. According MVLA 2021-2022 data, out of 4,539 high school students, 26.1% are Latinos and 63.5% identify as a minority or two or more ethnicities. This reflects the richness of our school community and the importance of ensuring that the curriculum represents those experiences. Research confirms the value of this course. In 2021, Stanford University published a study analyzing a pilot ethnic studies program in the San Francisco Unified School District. Results showed that students increased their graduation and college acceptance rates by 15%. Reasons to maintain and strengthen ethnic studies. 1, identity and belonging. 2, closing academic gaps. 3, critical thinking skills. 4, respect and inclusion. 5, preparation for global work. 6, alignment with state priorities. 7, student leadership. 8, long-term community benefits. Requests from LPO. Keep ethnic studies as a 10-credit AG approved elective. 2, Keep the course as a first-year class. 3, guarantee universal access. 4, ensure transparency in curriculum decisions. 5, hold open meetings with parents and community. 6, include LPO and another parent organizations in planning. As a parents, we understand that the student can only take limited number of classes, but eliminating ethnic studies will be the same as a giving up on our children. We urge MVLA to remain as a model of commitment to diversity and educational equity. Finally, we believe, given how important and complex the ethnic studies course is and the respect to those teams deserve, that 2 semesters be given to this course. Sincerely, Latino Parents Outreach, Mountain View, California.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Brooke Margin Hinckley.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brooke Megan Hinckley. I'm a social studies teacher at Mountain View High School. And I'll make it really quick. I'm just asking for time for us to be able to have these really, really hard and important discussions. When I came and shared some information with you last May, I remember Board Member Vonnegut said that you thought it would be really, really important for us to figure out what we want students to know their 9th grade year and 10th grade year. And I got very happy, right? Hearing you say that. And I think that's exactly what we need to be doing. Starting from that point, what do we want our kids to know? And then backwards planning, right, from that. So I'm just asking for some time for us to be able to do that. And those of us who want to have those discussions, we'd love to have them as soon as possible, right, within the next couple of weeks. We've only had about an hour as a department, right, to be able to begin talking about some of these ideas and the implications, which are really, really big. And I know you're going to go over some of the consequences, right, of the options that you have tonight, which, is great. So we all are on the same page about what that will look like. I'm just asking that before right decisions are made, that we are all focused on what we want students to know and to learn before we get to that time, and to do that soon for those of us who really want to have those conversations. So thank you.
Next we have Ariana Batista Santiago.
Good evening. My name is Ariana Bautista Santiago. I'm a junior at Mountain View High School and part of the AVID program, as well as one of the students who have taken ethnic studies. And I came here to share my experience and also discuss the course. What I found interesting about this class was social justice and activism different ethnic groups had to do in order to achieve equity and justice. For example, in East Los Angeles, walkouts happened because, and I quote, lack of college prep courses and teachers who were poorly trained in different or racist. Students joined in to protest for their right of equality education, and after a 10-day of protesting, there was a demand for more bilingual counselors, teachers, and principals. Improved testing to distinguish between a lack of English proficiency and a lack of intelligence, more lessons on Mexican American culture, art, and history. The reason why I shared this example was because it showed the unfairness there was in the Latino community when it came to educational rights, as well as the only way I heard and learned about this Chicano movement was through the class ethnic studies. There wouldn't have been another way of learning what education rights my community had to fight for and what other ethnic groups had to do in order to get their community rights as well. Throughout the year, I became more comfortable with my classmates, not because I would collaborate with them on projects, but rather because we began to comprehend one another. It's one thing to get to know one another, but there was just a feeling that in the class, you could belong in and not be nervous to be in, which is why I started off as a quiet girl who only spoke to her one friend in the class, to talking to every single classmate by the end of the year, all thanks to Miss Megan. Referring back to what I mentioned about the demands students gave, only 2 of these demands were given due to lack of school funding. Even though there are greater educational opportunities in the Silicon Valley, ethnic studies should be one of these opportunities offered here in Mountain View and Los Altos High School. Thank you.
Julie Yick.
Hello, good evening, trustees, Superintendent Volta. Nice to see you all. My name is Julie Yick, one of the ethnic studies teachers and course team leads at Mountain View High School. And as many of you know, the former district lead for ethnic studies. And I want to thank the board for your ongoing leadership and thoughtfulness on this issue. As discussions continue about our ethnic studies course and our social studies course offerings as a whole, many of the ethnic studies teachers would like to ask that you directly consider some of our input. We were very pleased to hear during the August 4th board meeting, Trustee Corns and Vonnegut and several of you mentioned wanting to hear directly from the ethnic studies teachers. Definitely those of us who have spent over 3 years and collectively thousands of hours, literally, developing the curriculum and teaching the course. We would really appreciate that opportunity to be able to share with you about some of our perspectives. I do not speak for every single ethnic studies teacher in MVLA, but I can say that we would definitely appreciate that opportunity to share our input. And furthermore, that it would be very helpful to do so in some type of a presentation. Tonight, of course, we'll have an informative presentation by our assistant superintendent, Terry, and our department coordinators, which is a really valuable, I think, starting point in regards to those options. Some of the teachers would really appreciate being able to present in more depth on ethnic studies based on our direct experience in the class. And while certainly more teachers could come for public comment, we think that it's really more productive to be able to have a longer discussion or presentation and be able to answer any questions that the Board of Trustees may have in regards to the course. So thank you very much. And we look forward to hopefully continuing this conversation beyond tonight. Thank you.
All right, now we move on to the presentation. Board, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation and wait to be recognized so that we make sure everyone has a chance to answer questions of Terry. Terry?
As Terry's walking up, just a reminder is our timeline that we talked about. As requested, Ms. Fott has been working with some of the department chairs of the social studies departments at both school sites. This is the opportunity to hear from the department chairs regarding ethnic studies and their thoughts. Next board meeting, it's scheduled to have a board study session where the board could hash out options and ask clarifying questions of Terry or any other staff members, and then potentially reach a decision by the last board meeting. I believe it's the 26th of October or whatever that last board meeting on October is. So Terry, go ahead.
Thank you, Superintendent Volta, and good evening, trustees. Tonight, as Superintendent Volta said, we're here to give you an overview of our 9th grade ethnic studies, social studies course offering. This is in light of the fact that The state mandate is currently not in effect at this time, and per the request to have us come forward and discuss what this means for the future of the course. Before we discuss the models, I want to recognize the substantial investments that the board, our teachers, our administrators, and fiscally our district has made around our current ethnic studies course. Since 2021-22 school year, we initiated an ethnic studies task force composed by teachers and administrator, met multiple times throughout the year and after school, led by Dr. Julie Yick. They developed our ethnic studies framework that was brought to the board several times that year and consumed board meeting conversations. Following that, in 22-23, we initiated a small pilot of the class, running a few classes at each site to vet the framework that was developed and start to develop lessons along with that. Again, multiple times coming to the board with updates, holding conversations, as well as talking to multiple families, student groups, and putting on webinars to be transparent to our community of this process and progress. In 23-24, this is what initiated a full year implementation, 22 full year sections at each course site, requiring alignment amongst the teachers. Again, requiring time, collaboration, money for retreats, et cetera, to continue to develop and align our curriculum. So in addition to the devoted extensive time from our teachers and the board engagement, it has led to a very strong ethnic studies course that we are now engaging in. What does this look like as we move forward into the future school years? Our goal for this evening is to equip you, our board, from our social studies department on behalf of our coordinators presenting tonight, to have information around what our social studies teachers believes is a strong, viable course offering for our students to support the college and career readiness, the expectations, and the clientele that we work with. I will turn it over at this point to our department coordinators, Chelsea Degucci from Los Altos High School and Nate Bowen from Mountain View High School, to present on behalf of their departments. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Superintendent Volta and Board of Trustees. It's good to be here tonight to be able to have the opportunity to give you guys some information about where we may be going with this course. This doesn't come without a little bit of emotion. We were disappointed with the decision from the state. It's kind of put us in some tough position. But we want to come at it rationally and objectively and give you guys as much info as we can come up with at this point. So if we could go to the next slide. Oh, there's a clicker. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Bob. All right. When we confronted our district, our departments with the potential for changes in this course, a lot came up. We had a lot of conversations about where things might go, and not surprisingly, there's a lot of opinion on where things could end up. But we landed on several core principles that we would like to see no matter what the board decides going forward for social studies offerings. First and foremost would be the continuation of a heterogeneous ninth grade experience. In social studies, we've had the benefit of having a full year course for the last 20 years. And in addition, alongside survey in the English department, these are really the only two courses that all students take at Mountain View and Los Altos. It's really the only two classes where no matter what your feeder school is, whatever your background, you are getting to know other students from other backgrounds. You are getting foundational skills that will help you through your whole experience in MVLA. And you're getting introduced to the values of our district. So we really hold that dear, and we would love to see that going forward. We also believe that the 20 years going on now of the full year social studies offering has had tremendous benefits for skills and content knowledge for our students. I was just talking to Chelsea here a moment ago and asking her about her APUSH results. I know this only because I'm teaching the class right now, but the national average for passing the APUSH test is 72%, and our numbers at Mountain View are 98%. That's our pass rate for AP US History. think Los Altos is right there with us. So it's pretty staggering. It's pretty impressive. Now, there's a lot of things that go into AP scores, and preparing students for the AP classes is not the only reason we want the full year class. We want kids to be prepared no matter where they're going with their social studies future. But it speaks to how well I think we do. And then finally, the third thing that all of our departments agree on is protecting our FTE in our departments, committing to an FTE neutral implementation. As you will see, some of the models do this better than others. Just doing the numbers really quickly, we offer roughly 20 sections, full year sections of ethnic studies at both sites. If you were going to go to a 1 semester option of ethnic studies, that would cut that in half. That would be 10.0 FTE at both sites, which translates to the equivalent of 4 full teachers' years of FTE across the 2 sites. So that's not an insignificant amount. We have really, really awesome teachers in both departments, top to bottom, but we're very proud of the new hires that we have at both sites. They are excellent, excellent teachers that will be serving this district for decades to come. And in an era where it's hard to find talent, especially in an area where it's hard to support even on our very excellent teacher salaries, it's hard to live in this expensive area. We would hate to have anything that could potentially jeopardize that FTE. So those are our 3 values that we would hope going forward are considered for our options coming up, for our models coming up. All right, and I turn it over to Chelsea.
So just to kind of continue on what Nate was saying, the one thing that we really want our freshmen and all students at MVLA to have is to we want our classes to create a sense of belonging and identity, and we want to again foster that sense of that, and just from the get-go, we want it from freshman year. And so having all 9th grade students take a college prep class, social studies class, it helps build that community. It allows them to develop their sense of belonging, identity, understanding like the community that they're growing up in by looking at a lot of those sources and content. We want them to build literacy and inquiry skills. They're coming from all different feeder schools with all different skills, and having this 9th grade core class allows them to all be on a level playing field. And these skills can be transferred to other disciplines as well, not just social studies. It prepares them for 10th through 12th grade courses, many pathways, including our AP classes. We also want to have them have this consistent experience across classes. So, like Terry and Nate were saying, this ethnic studies class that we have, it's regardless of the class that they're in and the teacher that they have, they're getting that same experience. And that I think is really something that MVLA values.
Okay, so here's a little preview of the 4 models that we've hit upon. And of course, there could be other iterations of this, but this kind of, I think, helps center the conversation and gives us a place to talk about the benefits and maybe some of the challenges associated with each one. Model A would be continuing what we got right now, the year-long ethnic studies course. It's a common course for all students. We are unsurprisingly super proud of this class. We looked at a lot of different ethnic studies classes around the state and around the Bay Area. I think we do it better than just about anybody else. I really believe that strongly. Having had children that have gone to a different district and had ethnic studies in a different district, I think we do it really, really well. Do you want to do model B or do you want to do all of these? I forget I forget the order. All right. All right.
Okay.
You want to go? I'll keep going. So
Okay, go ahead.
Model B would be 1 semester of ethnic studies plus a semester of health. So you would have, that would, again, we'll get into the pros and cons on the next slide, but that incorporates a in-seat health class in addition to a semester of ethnic studies. Model C would be full year social studies. We got ethnic studies for 1 semester, and then we have a semester of world studies paired with it. And then Model D is kind of like a hybrid. You have ethnic studies plus a choice. Students could, freshmen would have kind of like an elective option. They could take health as an option, or they could take a different social studies class. And this could open up the door for a lot of different types of social studies classes, maybe a California history class, maybe like a, preparation for AP history class. Maybe we have a Latin American studies class that we could bring in that's already been approved. So it gives a lot of different options there.
Right. And I think too, just the fact that we came up with some of these models, and it's just, this is just kind of brainstorming where we're at, but we went and when we met with our departments and we talked to other stakeholders through staff surveys, and we had a lot of input, and this was a collaborative process, and these are just some of the models that we came up with, keeping in mind the major commonalities of each of these interest groups. So we'll go to the next chart here. So these are some kind of decision criteria matrix. This is kind of what we came up with and what we really thought about in terms of each of these models and what they would bring to our district and our students and staff. So if you look at Model A, that's our status quo, right? Keeping year-long ethnic studies. We would have that heterogeneity. It would be required for all freshmen to take. We wouldn't have job loss, and there would be readiness for AP courses, college prep courses, and it would fit our master schedule.
Yes, I mean, that's again, status quo checks all the boxes. I do want to mention one thing before I get into Model B. We got the criteria at the top with the heterogeneous ninth grade experience. One thing that we were kind of talking about, you can see it's all checked there. They all hit it. There's different degrees and definitions of what a heterogeneous experience could mean. So from a social studies perspective, some of these do that better than others. They would have the common skills in all the classes. They would be taught by somebody trained in social studies in all the classes. They would all be taking the same classes, right? Model D's got heterogeneous because they're all taking ethnic studies for one semester, but then the second semester, it's very much a different experience for the students, and brings up a host of potential challenges. Like some classes might be perceived as easier than others. Kids are going off in different directions, maybe not with the same set of students, if you will. So definitely not the same level of heterogeneity as some of the other models. Okay, going on to Model B, this is ethnic studies plus health. Definitely has the heterogeneous experience. You've got social studies, and the students go on with the same cohort and take health and get their health in seat. It's a required course for all. Has the benefits of getting an in-seat health class, which we've heard from our folks in the health department, and we believe as well is very important for so many reasons. We do share those values that getting health instruction from a teacher would be super, super important, especially considering all the challenges to mental health and other health issues that students are facing these days. But if you get into the FTE category, that's where things get a little bit maybe problematic, right? If we're taking away that freshman year full social studies requirement, like I said, we've got at both sites about the equivalent of 2 full teachers FTE that is kind of up in the air, and that could maybe be resolved by finding electives at different levels. That could be resolved by social studies teachers going and getting a credential in teaching health and then carrying on. I think we have teachers who are willing to take that challenge on, but that would take time. That would take investment in time and learning to get those skills up. Student readiness for AP, I think our health teachers are awesome, but it's a different teaching, right? It's a different discipline. And we can certainly have writing assignments and critical thinking assignments that meet the AP requirements and get our students ready, just like a social studies class does. But it would take, again, it would take some ramping up. It would take some developing those skills and developing those habits. So as you can see in the Model B, there's some question marks. Master schedule feasibility, this one's doable. Very doable master schedule wise. Would be easy to plan out, easy to map out. We've done it in the past for sophomore year. So that one works. All right.
Model C is pairing ethnic studies with world studies, so semester long each. While it appears that they check all the boxes, they do. However, there's a pretty large workload involved when you have to pare down 2-year-long classes into 1 semester each. And this is to be done in 1 semester, but again, it does meet the ninth grade heterogeneity. It'd be required for all freshmen. FTE, it would preserve FTE, and it would also allow for students to be prepared for any social studies class they take 10th through 12th grade. And there is master schedule feasibility in this one.
Okay. And then one thing with Model C that is a consideration is that if a student is taking 5 credits of world history in freshman year, the state requirement is 10 credits. So they would have to take either an AP offering sophomore year, or we'd have to get a 5-credit class like we had in the past with CWI. We'd have to bring that back and have a 5-credit offering for those students not taking AP, so they could get their 10 credits of world history credit from that. All right. Model D, this is the one that's kind of like the real adventure here. This is the fun one. So it's again, it's got, it's a little bit of heterogeneous light. It's not kind of the full heterogeneous. That second semester, whatever they choose, might kind of mix things up a little bit, but at least everybody's getting ethnic studies together. And notice all 4 offerings, we are sticking with ethnic studies. We believe strongly in this class. I personally was part of the task force that helped develop it. And I'm really proud of the teachers at both of our sites who then went on to teach it. So it has been a true labor of love to get that thing going. And so, yeah, that's still part of the story, even though it would be going down to a semester. It'd be a required course for everybody. I think studies would continue to be a required course. Then you get into the FTE, because that could really, depending on what students are choosing year to year, could make things tricky. Now, down the road, if you have a lot of teachers who have also have their credential to teach health, then maybe that makes things a little easier. If you have popular electives that have been created for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, then maybe that kind of mitigates things a little bit. But depending on what students choose year to year, it would make kind of the staffing decisions a challenge. Student readiness for AP, again, because you have kind of you have different courses in there, and not all of them are social studies. That makes it a question mark. And then master schedule feasibility. Yeah, that definitely would be a challenge. Year to year, staffing, deciding where things go, balancing the schedule. I can tell you from having work every year at Mountain View to help build the master schedule for my department, this gives me a little bit of a nightmare thinking about this one. So that one has the most question marks, and that's our decision matrix. All right. And then I guess we're going to bring Terry back to speak to some of the other risk and mitigations. All right, you betcha.
Thank you to the both of you. In closing, I would like to just share a few risks and/or items that we request or ask that you consider to mitigate. I first want to share that it took 2 years to bring this course into fruition. That was 2 years of a lot of collaboration, a lot of hours, and a lot of teamwork between the board, the administration, and the teachers. The year-long ethnic studies course was not a green light from the beginning. It was ongoing meetings and collaboration with board, administration, and teachers. The development of the curriculum, as noted earlier, took hours, thousands of hours. And we heard from one of our community members today of the high quality education that his daughter received. And we hear that from many, many of our community members. And that comes from the support of our teachers to be able to intentionally develop standards, objectives, and then the daily lessons that meet those objectives. We heard from one of our students the experience that she had in this course. That wasn't just haphazard. That was through intentional planning, wanting that exact experience to be had. And one of the questions or requests that we're hearing, and I want to share with all of you, is please consider giving a runway that allows for that collaboration, that ongoing collaboration with our board, administration, and teachers. And sometimes it'll be some back and forth. To be able to make a decision whether it's staying the same or making the change, but we've made this together. It has what has built this district on the trust and the coherence, regardless at what level of hierarchy you're at with one another. One of the other concerns, and this was shared a little bit earlier, was we have not been a district that has laid off and released teachers. So I'm sure you're probably aware of the amount of anxiety that this is bringing some of our teachers right now, wondering if their job will be lost, and they are, some of them, the primary income provider for their family. And for us to take into account this concern in our past culture of our district as we continue to dialogue. Another concern briefly noted was scheduling complexity. You heard today from some of our teachers that there's competing interests in what this looks like next year. From full year social studies to a health teacher advocating for that health or ethnic studies combo, and working to address those needs. What do we want to work forward, and making sure that master schedule wise, we're able to have a choice that's sustainable year after year. And lastly, in our choices and in our collaboration with you, at the forefront are our students. Our students' experience that they're having in class, building community and empathy with one another, but also ensuring that vertical alignment of readiness for their following years, that we are following suit and being strong in that area. So we appreciate you being a part of just listening. I know that this was not a decision-making meeting at all. This was simply to bring forward our social studies teachers and represent their needs, and to share with you to inform your conversations ongoing. So we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, if you have any clarifying questions, and this also includes the students, I don't want to put you on the spot at the last minute, so if you, but I will call on you later. But if any of you have any questions, please raise your hand. Who has a question? Just raise your hand and I'll pick on you. If all of you have questions, just raise your hands. Do you have a question, Alex? Okay. Well, what we had said was we wouldn't comment until October 13th. Okay, yeah, questions are, sure, absolutely. Please frame it as a question.
What's the possibility, what of the A to G is helping?
G. It's a G elected, just like ethnic studies required.
But, and that's good ethnic studies. What's the likelihood that we could get our ethnic studies curriculum either the whole year or a half year qualified as an A? Because friends and social studies are A.
Mm-hmm.
And then furthermore, if we had half a year of world studies, would that be qualified as an A? Mm-hmm. I mean, because that to me makes a lot of difference, right? Mm-hmm.
So the A to G is determined by the College Board, and the A falls under categories of world history, US history, or civics econ. Because ethnic studies doesn't fall under any of those, it would not be considered an A under either of those categories. I agree. There's been
anyway.
Okay.
Is I heard speakers say we needed more time, more of a runway to discuss,
more discussions with departments, more than that. And I guess I was under the illusion or whatever that when you said, you had input from the departments and surveys and that people already discussed all this and that this was kind of like your semi-final answer or the things that we should just go ahead and we've been discussing it as was pointed out since last spring, that this was kind of like the culmination. We were close to making a decision. Do you not feel that way? But then, of course, since we need to runway in a different way in terms of schedule and everything, does that mean if we did take some more runway on the decision, we wouldn't be able to implement for one of them? So these are the timing questions I have in terms of whether we need input and whether it's doable in the time frame dependent. So that was my other question.
To answer that question, if we wanted to make a change for next school year, we would have to do it before we started the master schedule building process, which begins with course registrations at the end of January. And correct.
And the request, specifically what we brought forward was preliminary feedback, preliminary conversations of here's all of what we're hearing from our teachers. What's the request is allowing time for them to start to narrow it down to bring forward a more unified proposal with some curriculum examples if there's going to be some changes to present and share with you.
This is the first one, interesting. And then the other thing that Brooke mentioned is the what do we want the kids to know? So, for instance, if I was supposed to pick between a couple of them, do I think it's more important for them to have some moral history and why does that look like, and at least half of the ethnic studies? Or do I think that a more rigorous, I don't say more rigorous, a health and safety is more rigorous than the online. So if we did that, that would be a better thing for them to start with, as a freshman. I mean, those are the kind of things. So I'm not sure if we really know for sure what we need to know, what we want to fix. We want to give people choices, but how do we decide what choices that we're not to go with? We need to have a space of what we lead. That's our job. Those are my questions.
Okay, Vadim, you don't have any questions? How about you, Alex?
I had a similar one to Catherine. I very clearly hear the teacher's request for more time to collaborate and to give input. That's critically important, that collaboration between the teachers and the board and administration. I think that's sort of key. But I'm unclear as to how we incorporate or have already incorporated that into the process. I mean, we have an upcoming study session. Eric, thank you for sharing sort of the next steps. I presume that's another opportunity or maybe not. So a similar question there. And outside of that, I'll make a comment that's really more about thinking. So I want to thank the teachers and Terry for the thought and care that went into both this presentation and sort of the public comments. It's obviously quite hard, not only a ton of work went into building the current year-long, I think, studies course, but the collaboration between teachers, administration, board was a lot. Clearly comes out. Hey, I can see you guys have real pride in the quality of what was achieved, and now the shifting state requirements are adding a bunch of complexity. So I want to acknowledge that. And also I think it's important to acknowledge the concern around staffing. I think preserving stability for our teachers matters, and I personally believe that we can explore options that address that while having the rigor and the choice and the student needs in the center. And finally, Eric, thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear the teacher input.
and also outlining that in the next step, we should sort of weigh in the full range of options or maybe more reduced set of options that folks are more aligned around.
So student board members, did you have any questions?
I did not have any questions or comments.
I have one, I think. Just, I know you were talking about, oh, we're just listing out some of the ideas that we might have in replacement for this, or I guess what type of system you would want for your ethnic studies. But I'm just interested in hearing personally, what do you think would be the best? I'm like I just want to know. I know there's a lot of discussion among the teachers, but I feel like I'm just curious.
So kind of simple.
Yeah.
The least disruptive to what we've got going. I think we have an incredibly rigorous class right now. I think it's being very well taught. It's clearly making an impact on people. It's not perfect, but no class is, and it's a new class. So, that's my off the cuff quick response. We have really solid departments that have devoted themselves to the current model that we're in. We have very successful students up and down from senior year to freshman year. And I think a lot of the things we're doing with ethnic studies and in our departments are in line with the larger district goals of bringing in academic language instruction, teaching students how to be effective writers, especially around claim, evidence, and reasoning. I think we're, of course, not the only thing. There's a ton of factors. We're one department, many awesome departments, but we're part of a very successful district. So whatever we can do to not rock that boat as little as possible, I think would be great. And I also want to just piggyback a little bit on what Terry was saying. The amount of time I went into this thing was significant. It was not a knee-jerk reaction to create this course. It was in response to significant voices from the community who had been advocating for many, many years. And it took a long time to thoughtfully create the class. And so it's not something that can be unwound quickly either, or reconfigured in a quick manner. So I just respectfully ask that we continue to keep that foremost in the thoughts. And I'm very encouraged to hear that you guys picked up on and heard the people and their requests for more time to discuss and collaborate with you on this process. So thank you.
And just a clarification to the board and the models that were proposed or that were thrown out there by our teacher committee. If 40 credits of social studies is still a graduation requirement, there would be no changes in staffing. You would still have 4 years of social studies and you wouldn't lose the social studies staffing. So if it was status quo, if it was ethnic studies with some other world history component to go along with the sophomore world histories, maybe it's pre-French Revolution world history, or ethnic studies and some other social studies elective, those would not change the graduation requirements and therefore not change the staffing issues. So I just want to clarify that because I don't know that was clear on that graph.
Oh, so okay.
That's not the state requirement.
No, that would be what we're talking right now. Our current requirement is 40. That's an MVLA requirement. It's 3 years. Yes. But I will say that this district has had a minimum of 35 credits dating back to probably the CST testing of the late 90s because they had world studies to keep that heterogeneous grouping. Freshman year, they chose to leave it there, but then they added a semester course in world history to prepare students for the CSTs that were coming about as well. And students could get out of that course by taking an AP course.
So I have some questions. We've talked, first of all, I want to echo thanks to how much, I've sat here actually for 2 years, and that's only been some of the years that you have worked on ethnic studies. So I want to thank you for your dedication and thoughtfulness and, we actually went through the entire curriculum at one point, all of us together. So I want to really ask you about this idea of a one semester ethnic studies course. Like, I really want to understand how much work that would be, because I think if we're considering it as a board, I want to understand, like, are we asking you to do like thousands of hours of work to pour it down to one semester? What is the workload we're asking of you? Because I think if we don't understand that, then we're not sure of, can we have a good course by next year?
So I think what you're asking is, how are we going to pare down a year-long class into a semester in we have 3/4 of the year left for this year. We're asking maybe 14 freshman year ethnic studies teachers right now to meet together. Everyone, I think, on that team has differing opinions on what they would like to keep, what they would want to potentially get rid of. And I think that that's multiple meetings. I mean, there's a lot of very, very passionate teachers who've poured blood, sweat, and tears into creating that curriculum. And so it'll be a long time, I think. I don't think it's going to be some overnight decision, hey, we're going to do these 3 units.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one where you would definitely, feedback from those teachers would be so crucial, for getting that kind of understanding of what they would be thinking. I could tell you that the first semester is designed to equip the students to then have the tools to look into current events around education, the justice system, housing, what have you. So you would have to either throw out some of those units. You wouldn't be able to talk about maybe, the education system in our country, or you'd have to really squeeze down that identity unit and prep unit, and maybe, I mean, it would just be tough. You wouldn't have the same level of preparation for some of the more advanced skills that they're developing our students. But again, they would be the ones to be better able to speak to that. Those we're teaching.
Okay, so I guess that's kind of my question is, like, I think this is back to what Catherine said, is like, we don't have the ethnic studies teachers here. So I'm sort of, you're proposing something, but I don't have enough information to know, what, if we're going to get a quality class out of it. So that's really my question, is, are we going to get a quality class by having, I'm not saying, this is not my opinion. I need to know the information.
Well, I think, and I'll let somebody else jump in here in a second, but the way I see this presentation, in a way, I think it may have hit the mark, because you guys understand now how complex this decision is, and it opens up those further questions of what do we need to know to actually do this if we're going to make a change. I think that was the goal here, was really just informational, and like, if we're going to make a change, these are the considerations we have to start thinking about. These are the questions we have to start asking, and this is the information we're going to need to get to do this right. And so I hear you, and I agree. Like, when we started thinking about this, when we heard just a couple of weeks ago that the state had not funded the implementation, it was like, oh man, here we go. And it's just like, what do we have to do? Like, what questions are going to come up? Just the complexity of it really became apparent really quickly once we started talking about it.
Yeah, so I guess it gets back to what Catherine had asked earlier, which is, what do we want our 9th grade and 10th grade students to know in social studies? That is, to me, the high level question as a board that we need to have our students prepared in 9th and 10th grade, when they're prepared to take next level classes. So you had mentioned that not taking ethnic studies could impact their 10th grade readiness. So is that students who take world history, or is that students who I'm just not understanding that issue as well, because
it's a question. If you take a full year of social studies and you have all those social studies skills practice with, reading historical documents, interpreting for audience, interpreting for the message of the document, like all the things that we try to get our students to do, to think like historians, to prepare them for that, for those further years of being in history and social studies classes. You're only getting a half year of that, whether it's ethnic studies or world studies. And the other half is a different class, be health. You know, there's a lot of value in health, right? I think we all agree in this room that having a teacher for health would be awesome somehow. If we could make that work somehow. Like I'm all for that. I'm 100% behind that. But if they're doing health, that's not the same as doing a history class, right? So
Okay.
you could do activities in the health class that are prepping students to read documents, whether or not it's a health-based document or what have you. But that's the question. We don't know.
Yeah, and I think too, having the same teacher all year, you know, students grow a lot, especially freshmen. You know, they're skill going into freshman year, they don't have the skills, and you know, seeing that growth throughout the year, it's a tremendous growth. But having only a semester with them, it's hard to see and measure really what they're getting and where they're going to land in 10th grade. So I think that, you know, regardless of whatever semester class they take after, like having the same teacher and being able to really see how they do the entire year is really, I think, a really important thing to address here.
Okay, yeah.
May I add to that?
Sure, of course.
And that is, this matrix says required course for all. So we've had comments from the community at large and so on. Just make ethnic studies an elective and they can take it if they want, whenever they want. And I notice here you say required, that it's important for all of the people because of these heterogeneous situations and so on. And for that, I want to point out that many districts have 3 full classes for freshmen that they all take. They all take an English class that's the same-ish. I mean, this is called the same thing. They all take an English class. Did I say English? And they all take a world studies class of some kind, and they all take PE. We have a unique situation here where you don't take PE if you are playing a sport that semester. So that is another case where we're taking kids away from the global experience of getting to know their whole diverse freshman class together, having come from the different feeder schools and so on. So we already have less than that. So I'm actually glad to see that you listed required here. But the other thing too is that if you look at our graduate profile, which was developed with input, let me say, let me just finish the one sentence, that all feeds into the graduate profile too. And a lot of these skills that you said, not only are academic, but they do the world citizen part of education too.
All right.
Then,
So, thank you, Vadim. Thank you, Alex. All right. So we ready to move on? Okay. So now we'll move on to 9.2, 2025-26 grade 9 math course enrollment. This is our first annual report. And again, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. Okay, we'll wait for the audience to clear out.
think what
Nobody
we see
wants
is
to
more
hear about
popular
ninth
math
grade
or ethnic
math.
studies.
Ninth grade math is important. I'm eager to hear this report, Terry.
Thank you. Give me just 1 second. Shall I? All right.
Please.
Well, hello, good evening again, trustees. Tonight I am bringing forth our annual review of the 9th grade student math placement data. This is in accordance to Senate Bill 359. We are meeting compliance by showing what our annual enrollment in math is for our 9th grade classes. This was pulled at the 6-week level, or the 6-week mark, which is when we hold the drops and the changes in student classes. You can see from the data, it is disaggregated by, first of all of the math sections math courses that we have that a freshman is enrolled in. It is further disaggregated into either ethnicity, gender, or special programs. Overall, we have Algebra 2 Honors as one of our highest enrolled classes at 30%. When we look at the disaggregation, we see that our primary enrollment in this course is our Asian and white students, presenting an overwhelming majority. Our second high enrolled course for our freshmen is Algebra 1 at 29%. This course includes a high portion of our more minority ethnicities on our campus. Part of our work as teachers and educators is to ensure that our 9th grade students are appropriately placed in math. We do this by the vast amount of 8th grade articulation with our families and our middle schools, mapping out the 8th grade to 9th grade course sequence. We also do this by our teachers these first several weeks of school, both formatively and summatively assessing the students and advancing the student if their status seems inappropriate, as we want to make sure that we are not holding students back. And so that is your annual review of our 9th grade math enrollment set forth by Senate Bill 359. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Please raise your hand. Catherine?
I just want to know how the one person taking AP Calculus BC already as a freshman is getting along with all those upperclassmen. And is there, in that, obviously they'd have to be in with somebody else. They couldn't be just with freshmen. But in the ones where there's a lot taking it at a different level, do you try to keep like the freshmen and the geometry class together and the sophomores together, or are they all literally mixed up?
They are randomly placed by their course schedule and how their course selection has mapped with the master's schedule. And I will say I've taught diverse grade level classes with 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And actually, I find that your upperclassmen take on the role of being, the role model, and they themselves are recognizing that their behavior influences the others. And so they step into that leadership role, and your freshmen grow more maturely by watching and being with upperclassmen. So having a diverse group of grade levels, I believe, adds to a rich fabric of the classroom.
Okay, Vadim?
Thank you for the data, Terry. What insight should we read into this data?
What insight should you use when looking at this data?
Well, should we read from the data? I mean, data is just numbers. What insight do you recommend that we see through these numbers?
So math is really built off of pathways. And that pathway is established earlier in that child's school year, early school year, that has led all the way up to where they go into 9th grade. So we are not looking at students and determining where they go. We are looking at where they're at in 8th grade, and that fluidly or bridges right to where they land in 9th grade. So one of our takeaways is, what is our collaboration and articulation with our middle schools? And how are we working together to look at this as our math program and not just an isolated district program? Because we're not. We definitely share our students together. Another takeaway is some students are excelling by not necessarily just what's taking place during the school year, but the external resources that they have to take classes online or during the summer that other school students don't have that opportunity. And so how are we breaking down those barriers of inequitable resources that are leading to what we're seeing as some differences in ninth grade placement for our students? And so those are the two objectives that we're currently working with as a site.
Okay. Alex.
One other question having to do with the integrated and the algebra classes. Those are SPED students, all of them. And are we doing more to try to integrate them more into the other classes rather than have these separate ones that are apparently adjusted a little bit for them?
Absolutely. Our Algebra 1 and our Geometry has several sections of co-taught classes. We have seen over the last several years, the number of students enrolled into SAI specific academic instruction, which is for students with IEPs. Those numbers have drastically decreased. The number of sections of those SAI math classes have drastically decreased because we've had an increase of co-taught classes. And you'll see in just a little bit of how that has also impacted our A to G data. So the students that are in our SAI classes currently are students that were determined to really need that service, and that a co-taught class was not able to meet the need and the level of the students in those classes.
About the integrated math one, that one right in the middle. Is that what INTGT means, integrated?
Yeah, so this is let me double check this. I believe this is our online math program that we provide students in independent study. Yeah, and so let me double check with the integrated math. I don't want to give you false information on that.
Later about how many sections of co-taught you have?
Absolutely. So
as a matter of curiosity, because since that is something to take away from this, Avaneem, is that we're reducing these numbers, and some of the success with that is because we're co-teaching. It'll be nice to see those numbers migrate from year to year or whatever.
I'll provide the board both the numbers of co-taught sections and clarity on the integrated math later within this week. Thank you.
Okay. Great data to see, though. Very interesting.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so I had a couple. First of all, thank you for this report. It's very informative. I particularly appreciate the gender diversity part of it, which I assume is California required, but it's still important. I did want to note that there's a big bifurcation between Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 honors, right? Those are our two biggest classes with 328 and 340. So they're basically pretty similar in size. And so my first question is, if you're starting in Algebra 1, we've talked a lot about trying to get students into Algebra 2 by the time they graduate, because they need that in order to, I mean, that's part of the A through G requirements, is to have taken Algebra 2. So if you start in Algebra 1, are you able to take Algebra 2 by the time you graduate, assuming you spend all 4 years in math?
Thank you for asking the clarifying question. Our pathway is as follows: Algebra 1, regardless if you take it in middle school or not, followed by Geometry, followed by Algebra 2, followed by Trig, pre-calc. And then you could take any level of the calcs or the statistics afterwards. So if you're a freshman and the lowest level of math we have is Algebra 1, starting in Algebra 1, you'll be A to G eligible for math by your junior year, if not earlier. And I say if not earlier because sometimes students choose to take a course like Geometry over the summertime. And so they would accelerate in math to be able to get to a higher level of math within their high school year.
Okay.
So yes is the long answer to your question.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing for us to say, because I think there have been some questions from the Latino community about placement in Algebra 1, and really it's about setting them to be on the pathway if they wish to go to college. I think I think we all agree that we want all our students to have the opportunity, if they wish, to go to college. And so I imagine that class has a lot of this. This isn't about the statistics, but I imagine that class has a lot of different levels of students. So how is that going in terms of getting everyone from Algebra 1 to Algebra 2? I would be interested in that data because our Algebra 2 data hasn't the last I looked, we were still kind of lagging in our Algebra 2. So somehow people aren't moving on to Algebra 2. So be interested to see more data on that down the road, but I understand that takes time. Sure, I would love to see this. Okay, great. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay. All right. So next.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think. All right. So next we're going to move on to 9.3, our annual college and career readiness updates. Again, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. And here's Terry again.
Good evening, and I promise this is my last appearance for the night. I feel like this is a little bit of speed dating with Ed Services. You get to see several of the great work that we do with our staff. And tonight, it is a pleasure to share with you some data that supports college and career readiness, and take a look at where we are and how this aligns to our district goals. A brief overview of our time together this evening. We're going to focus on 3 core pillars: AP access and outcomes, A to G completion, as these are the specific classes that you need upon UC and CSU entry, and then our graduation. In addition, we're going to take a lens of these 3 data points and look at how this reflects on our district's equity goals. Before I begin, I just want to take a brief note and acknowledge and appreciate the work of our teachers and their strong curriculum, our counselors and the vast amount of guidance and coaching and consultation they provide our students, the site administration that holds this all together and supports their staff to be the level of quality that we have, our data team and our IT team who has been able to contribute to this work by providing us the data moving forward. And that data is primarily coming at this point from our student information system, ARIES, as well as Data Zone, College Board, Dashboard, and CalPads. As we move forward, I just want to take a brief note and take a look at our student enrollment, as when we're looking at some of the data, we want to ask ourselves, is the disaggregation by ethnicity comparable and comparable to the disaggregation of our overall student enrollment? At 35.4%, we have Caucasian and Asian ethnicities attending our district. 25.3%, we have our Latino population attending our district. At 3% and 1%, we have other populations like Pacific Islander, Filipino, and then African American at 1%. So let's start by taking a look at AP enrollment. These classes exposes our students to college level curriculum and assessment. And being able to participate in this class also can afford a student to receive college credit if they are getting a passing score, which is a 3 or higher. I will note on the slide, I'll just show you, I actually had animation of the 2 slides. And so I realized when it printed, it doesn't show one of the data points or one of the slides. So I'll apologize and make sure that I'm splitting those up in future slide decks. What I want to show in this slide is AP enrollment and the number of students taking the tests and the scores on the test. We had 2,132 AP testers out of 3,229 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. That is 66% of our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders taking an AP course. In addition to that, those AP students on average took 2.5 exams each. You'll see on this data over the course of the years, we have had an enrollment in the number of tests that our students have taken. Despite that, enrollment has remained fairly consistent. In fact, I'm just going to point out in 2017 or 2018, we had 4,200 students in our district taking 3,587 tests. Speed that up to 2025 with 4,357 students, so 300 more students. And we increased almost 2,000 more tests from 3,587 to 5,375. With this large increase in the number of our students taking a test, we have not seen our scores waver. We are strong at 93% of our exams scoring a 3 or higher. That is 4,986 exams out of 5,375 that have received a passing score and therefore college credit. With all of this, we continue to standardize our exam registration and communicate fee waiver to students in need to make sure that we are removing any barriers of access to our exam. I want to also show another graph that is reiterating the graph on the left side. The bottom bright green dots are the number of AP testers. You can see over the years, they slightly increased with kind of flatlining at one point. But then you see in the light green and dark green dots, the top two lines, those are our exams, the number of exams and the score of passing rate. Those have continued to increase over the years. The graph on the right is just giving you some comparable data of us where we're at compared to state and national level on AP tests. We're the green dots, and it shows continuous improvement compared to the state and nation, which shows a little oscillation, but more or less a flatline trend. So a lot to be proud of with our AP enrollment and rate. Also want to be careful of student wellness and students feeling pressured by seeing their peers signed up for 3, 4, 5 AP classes. And so therefore they feel like they should be, and wanting to not create a sign up based on a system of pressure, but more a system of well-being and what the needs are. Speaking of strong academics and young scholars, I appreciate our student board members being here this evening, and I recognize that they'll be leaving, but they are strong representatives of the data that we look at here. The next slide is AP enrollment and equity and access, and this shows us just overall enrollment in the courses. So you can see that we've stayed slightly flatlined with oscillating in the 50s for overall enrollment. This enrollment, which is the graph on the left, is taken from grade levels 9 through 12. We have very few freshman classes that are AP. AP Computer Science is one of them that a freshman student has access to, very few. So if you remove freshmen out of this equation, we'll see over 66% of our grades 10 through 12 taking the assessments. And then when we look to the graph at the right, this breaks it down by ethnicity, which also stays fairly consistent over the years. And we'll see that we have persistent gaps in who's enrolling and not enrolling in the AP classes. And it's always important when we look at numbers, we look at data, that we recognize that there's stories behind these numbers that diving into can help us understand the situation and determine, what our next steps are. Shifting slightly, but still that focus on college and career, I want to move to AP completion data. This is the broader indicator of UC-CSU readiness. It's also the gatekeeper into who can apply or even be reviewed for a UC or CSU. We're proud to say that our A to G rose to 82% from 78% last year. Just a reminder, this is class of 2025 only, so this is only pulling from our seniors. This improvement reflects monitoring, work from our counselors, systems, work to make all A to G courses, make all courses A to G approved, as well as co-teaching and inclusion. Again, with that, and we'll see that we also had some improvement with our subgroups. As an example, special education increased 11% in A to G completion. Strong example of what co-teaching can provide our students with IEPs. AVID had an increase of 5%, and we had a decrease of 3% for low-income students. And so still areas to continue to dive deep on, work on, to continue to minimize that inequitable gap. Diving a little deeper on A to G completion, we ask, who's not A to G eligible? Who are those 20% or 10% of our students? Who's the portion of our students that are not meeting A to G? When we do a deep dive, this is what we revealed. The data table on the right side of the slide shows how many credits students were deficient in meeting A to G. There's a total of around 223 students district-wide who did not make A to G. That's roughly 110 students, 110 seniors per site. When we look at that, we see a bulk of them are missing 20 or more credits. That means 2 years, 2 full years of a course or more. 34 of our students district-wide are just a semester shy, or maybe 2 semesters shy of meeting this requirement. When we take a look at what are the courses that are seeming to be the bottlenecks or the challenges of meeting completion, one of the big ones that we see is math. A common area for students not meeting is that they did not complete 3 years of math at a C or higher. It could potentially be because our graduation rate is 2 years, and so students stop at 2 years. That has been some of that data, and the other data has been that a student has taken a higher level math course but not met a C, and then did not do a grade recovery to improve their grade. We also see that English is one of the factors of our students not meeting A to G. This is not because they didn't take an English. We require 4 years of English, just like colleges, UC does. But this is most of the time that a student has received a D in their English course, their junior or their senior year, and they just decide not to retake it for grade recovery. And then you can see the breakdown of some of the other challenges of meeting A to G ability. We're working with our counselors on doing some case scenarios and building some systems of stronger monitoring as well as coaching and communication around picking up that second year of world language so they get those 2 years, despite the fact that our board or our graduation requirements don't require it. Finding the supports in Algebra 2 or TRIG to help support that meeting a C or higher, or what does the grade recovery look like if they don't get that by the end of the semester. So when you see this and we look at our 82%, we feel very positive that we can continue to raise this number by focusing on making this a priority. And lastly, a common priority is that our students graduate. We are very proud of our graduation rates. We're at 98.4% overall. We're seeing a trend increasing with our Latino students. These are our students that have completed the school year with us. I want to just note that top bullet is this is not pulled from the California dashboard, which would determine if there was any early transfers to adult ed or early dropouts. That doesn't get calculated in the pull from our student information system. So when the dashboard comes out, we'll have another conversation. I also want to note with our Latino students, it's a very diverse population, more than any of our other ethnic populations. Out of that population, 63% of our Latinos are reclassified fluent, so they're multilingual learners. 42% of them are free and reduced education, which means that they reach the state's level of poverty which I believe is something like $20,000 a year annually. And 32% of our Latino students are language learners. They have not been classified as fluent yet. So again, when we look at our population, know the variety and the challenges that come with that variety. I noted AB Assembly Bill 2121 that we have started to implement over the last few years, that we've seen some improvement in our Latino grades. AB 2121 provides reduced credits down to 130 credits for a newcomer coming from a different country into our country at the junior or senior level. We have to consult with them and see that they will not be able to make our graduation 220 credits. And many students come with no transcripts or very interrupted education, so very few classes. And that is exactly why the state has created AB 2121 to give our students a chance to get a diploma. It also requires that if the family and student so chooses, and they cannot complete graduation requirements in 4 years, and they request, we must honor them with a 5th year to be able to complete their graduation requirements. That's great for them, great for us, great for society. But what that will also show is the ding on the graduation rate, because they will show up as a non-grad that 4th year. They'll show up as a grad their 5th year, but they'll show up as a non-grad that 4th year. And so some of our low, where it says newcomer at 70%, we need to understand that this number is incorporating the AB 21, some of them, the AB 2121, who needed a 5th year. We honor it, but then that gives them a ding this current year. So with all of that said, key takeaways, AP test takers are on the rise in their participation. We're still seeing some gaps in certain demographics that we continually need to prioritize. We're seeing a continued rate in passing of our AP. We've seen an increase in our A to G completion rates. We have done a deep dive in understanding what some of the bottlenecks with AG completion are, so we can be more thoughtful and smart and intentional in working with our systems. Our graduation rate is strong, and a lot of our work is around the Tier 1 instructional strategies, the inclusive classroom, and the co-teaching that we have integrated. So as we move forward for the rest of this year, we want to work on increasing AP access with our Latino multilingual students with disabilities in AP courses. And we'll note that by looking at what the course signups are for the 26-27 school year, which means towards the end of this year, we'll have a better understanding. We also want to continue to battle that increase for A to G from 82% this year, going up 1 to 3% for next year. And we want to maintain a strong 98% graduation rate. When the dashboard comes out, it's going to indicate to us who those non-grad or who the dropouts or the transfers to adult ed are. And that will help us then determine those early warning systems that we need to continue to refine to keep them with us and get them a high school diploma in 4 years. So thank you for listening 3 different times on 3 different subjects, and a lot to be proud of our district, and want to thank our foremost and ultimate leadership by our superintendent, Eric Volta, for continuing to keep us focused and asking student-centered, data-informed questions. So thank you, board.
All right, any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Alex.
So Terry, first of all, thank you for sharing this. Extremely illuminating and helpful. Awesome. Love seeing the progress. Really, really awesome to see on all fronts. That's awesome. My key question is, I'm curious, when are we able to identify that moment for students where we really need to intervene, where we see there is a significant likelihood for them to graduate without A through G completed?
Yeah. It starts in 9th grade. And one of our key indicators is looking at 2.0 or lower student GPA at the 9th grade. And we also look at D and F rates. If we're seeing students in 9th grade getting D's and F's in their math class and their English class, those 9th grade is where A to G starts right away. So what are the interventions that we're putting in place for those young scholars that are struggling in even the entry level A to G courses? Second, as we met at one of our last counseling meeting, and that is starting to look at junior transcripts now and determine which students are missing an art class or maybe an art and a world language class, and having conversations with them to plan for the senior year or maybe even a summer or online course, instead of waiting until senior year and realizing, oh, you're 2 classes short of meeting A to G, let's try to do a spot check. So it really is a spectrum of how we're approaching each year for A to G completion. Yeah, it's a great question, not waiting until the end.
Perfect, thank you.
Vadim.
Yeah, following up to my question about math statistics, I know it's a lot more difficult to catch up than stay afloat. When kids are coming to high school from junior high, are they able to take summer courses that we offer in high school so they can either redo the math class that they haven't perhaps mastered the material in junior high, or take that Algebra 1 in the summer and start at a higher level? Again, because that leads, most likely, right? It leads to their ability to satisfy A through G, especially in the area of math.
You pose a good question, and it's also one of the reasons why we see lower enrollment in certain populations in AP math. Because if you start in Algebra 1 freshman year, then Geometry, then Algebra 2, then Trig, that AP math comes your 5th year, and one of the challenges of supporting that. But to get to your question specifically, students can absolutely, before they come to us, take math classes that accelerates their math. It needs to be at a WASC accredited A to G approved facilitation organization. So they couldn't take it online at Khan Academy as an example, but they could take it online at UC Scout, and that we will honor that. If they take the class after they graduate 8th grade, they can choose to put that math on their transcript. If they take it somewhere within their 8th grade, then they just need to show us that course completion, and we advance them to the next level, but we don't put that on their transcript. During the school year, and we see this with our out-of-district course applications, students can take math simultaneously or over the summer to advance their movement in math. I will just share that there's questions or concerns around trying to accelerate too much, and that you're truly not learning the foundations of math, and instead you're memorizing the procedurals around the math, and that can end up causing longer term effects when you're really getting to some pivotal courses that needs that strong foundation of math beyond just memorizing the procedure or the formula. And so we encourage students and parents to honor the readiness of where their child is and not feel like they're falling behind because of what everybody else is doing and pushing their child so much. And we see this to where the student is stressed out, the student is struggling, vast amounts of tutoring is taking place, when perhaps the best fit would be a different level that could really nurture that math learning, as well as build that confidence in the students for being computational thinkers.
Yeah, you mentioned sort of opportunities, right? That different members of society have different opportunities. I know a lot of kids have taken, before coming into high school, they try to catch up. I've seen a lot of discussion on among parent groups. Assuming a lot of people can afford to drive their kids because these are 8th graders coming into 9th, they're not driving themselves. So it's a time opportunity of a parent. It's a cost of taking the class somewhere else. Is there an opportunity for our district to provide these services for free so that the kids in the neighborhood can bike to school in the summer if they choose to and take the Algebra 1? And would it be the goal, ideally, right, to have everybody come in at an Algebra 2 level and having mastered Algebra 1 at junior high?
So
Start their math sequence in June as opposed to August 11th.
Sure.
But you only have so many weeks during the summer.
Yep.
And to take a class for the first time over the summer That's a challenge. Summer school is usually more of a remedial type of thing, unless you take a course at college.
I wonder if it's remedial. I wonder if they take a algebra 1 in middle school and for whatever reason don't feel comfortable stepping and retake it in their freshman year of high school. Do we have the data for that?
With the summer school, if a student took Algebra 1 already and they needed a refresher course. If we're talking
Okay.
acceleration, our current summer school is 4 weeks. We'd have to offer 6 weeks to students to have a full instructional minute compliance. We attempted this several years ago with geometry during the summertime, and we found that the numbers were a little bit low and that students petered out. It was very exhausting, and that the amount of money that it costs to hold the class to the number of students didn't balance.
But I'm hearing it's possible for a student not to take algebra 1 in middle school. Is that correct, or junior high?
So, correct, a student may not reach a level of Algebra 1 yet. And so therefore, they take Algebra 1 when they come to high school.
Okay.
Yep. And a large percentage of our students, a large population, I don't have the data in front of me, I put it in my bag, but over 200 and some freshmen take Algebra 1 as a freshman because they didn't receive or obtain that course as a middle schooler.
A couple of things. One is statistics in math. No freshmen were apparently taking statistics, but can you take statistics? At what point could you take statistics, or you have to wait all the way through trig, or
you could take it after Algebra 2.
Or after Algebra 2?
You could take it after trig, or you could take it after Algebra 2.
I mean, you can't take it just at random earlier?
No, the 3 courses that builds the foundation at which statistics lays upon are the Algebra 1 and 2 and the geometry.
Okay. And then where do you have the difference between the co-taught and the constructing meaning? Are all the ones that are co-taught using constructive meaning or not?
All classes are using constructing meaning at various levels of fidelity based on when teachers went through the training and their preparation, but it is absolutely not just for co-taught classes. It is.
Well, I know that, but if both of them help,
yes,
it seems like both of them added together would help even more. Okay.
And I think that was shown in our data and the strong increase. That's the combination of the two.
Okay. And then the last question is about what's the approximate number or percentage of our students that do take their AP classes tests on waivers?
I might want to fact check this, under 20%, but I want to fact check that.
Just curious. So do you think that means you have to pay to take an AP test, but if you can't afford it, we give you a waiver and we pay for it? I was just wondering how many are in that category, or whoever else pays for it.
Yeah,
the waiver. So less than 20%. Do you think there's some kids that aren't taking it because they don't realize that they could have a waiver, and so they don't take the test or don't even take the class?
I would say pretty confidently no. Teachers promote it. Our sites promote it. Some students, for various reasons, out of concern, do not apply for the FRE eligibility because they're giving the state their information, and for some that's very unsettling. And so are there students who don't get the waiver because of that? Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I think Alex, you asked a great question, which I'm going to follow up on. I think clearly we're working towards A through G. I think we talked about ideally we'd like all our students to graduate A through G. We have 138 students, severe credits. Okay, but there's 34 students out of the who have just one class. So I'd be really interested to know, what is that one class? Because that's a pretty low hanging fruit of 34 students who could take, presumably could graduate if they were willing to take that chance.
Yeah.
And I think that requires some counseling to say, like, you're missing out on going to having the opportunity to go to a four-year college.
Agreed.
So I would like to you to come back and just let us know of those students. What is the barrier of that? Because that's just one class. So that's something that's more solvable than the disaggregated data. I'm not sure if it's severe credits. If you're 20 plus credits, you're going to be missing a lot of different classes. And then to Vadim's point, I think we have different levels of Algebra 1, and I think we could work with the middle schools and perhaps consider having kind of a pre-algebra class for those students who we think are at risk of not graduating. Not passing Algebra 1 their first try. Because I think if a student doesn't pass a class, that raises confidence issues, and then we're still having an issue with students not going out to Algebra 2. And so I'm wondering if those students somehow aren't quite ready and they don't pass Algebra 1, and then they're like, oh, well, I can't do math. So, and that's kind of a common misnomer, right? That, math is a special thing that you can't do, which I don't agree with, but I think failing a math class, I think might, even though you have, you're saying math, if you add the numbers, it's actually 24 plus 39. That's quite a number of students. So I think looking into how we can, and also it affects our scores as well. Which I think Alex spent quite a bit of time talking about. But if our students haven't taken Algebra 2, then there's no way they can do well on our standardized tests. And we have an achievement gap that's very clear in our tests. So to me, this is A through G, and also for our school showing the state that our Latino students. And also, I think there's been concern expressed to me by the Latino community about, Algebra 1 and whether students are prepared to take it. So I think really looking at that, and is it possible to specifically look at these students who are at risk of not passing and offering them a free class and saying, here, this is prep for algebra that you can take during the summer. It's free. Yes, it takes more of your time. You have to take public transportation to high school for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever. But I think if it increases currently our rate is not great among Latinos of A through G, and I think we've talked about confidence before, and I think failing a class in your freshman year has got to be a real confidence loss to your confidence. So I think if we can help those students to pass the class with extra support, either during the class, which I know we're working on with constructing a meaning, but I think also some students may need help to Vadim's point, before class even begins, because they don't have basic if you don't have basic numeracy skills, you can't possibly access Algebra 1. And so our students are coming to us without basic numeracy skills, and we could probably give them a test to see, can you do simple basic numeracy tasks?
Well said. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, the math being so important. I remember there was a program at Graham that was a algebra readiness summer school thing that it wasn't actually a formal class that you got credit for, but I would call it more like math camp or whatever, but that worked on deficiencies like, just some common concepts that go with algebra, or at least be able to multiply and divide big numbers and things like that some kids couldn't even do at that point. So if you had like a camp where you could say, Ms. Vaught, I can't multiply big numbers together, or I can't do this or that. And somebody would work with them and give them some worksheets and on that and kind of camp kind of situation. Maybe we could do that, and maybe we could. I mean, we're not the educators. We're the board, but even addressing the transportation issues and so on. Is there some way that we could use some of the like the junior high or a middle school campuses for like a tutorial or a camp kind of session in the summer where we could send people over? And I also think it would be very helpful to have Spanish speaking math teachers, because I think that could also be a problem,
So it sounds like we're interested in possibly agendizing this math boot camp idea, because obviously it's going to take some resources, right?
Something that would work.
Yeah, something.
And if regular summer school wouldn't work, but if
make it work.
Yeah, we could do something in the where of
how much it
math
costs.
camp at Graham or math camp at
let's
Block or
let's
something
say
like that.
how much it costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we move on to. Oh, sorry, Vadim. Go ahead.
Sorry, Terry.
Of course.
So the AP test results graph is very interesting to me. Can you go up? I think that was the third. Maybe keep going. More. No, keep going. This one, yes. So in 2015, if I read this correctly, average number of exams per tester was about 2, right? 1,500 students, roughly taking 3,000 tests. And over 10 years, it rose to 2.5, right? On the surface, doesn't seem like a lot, but like if you look at the graph, the population didn't change that much. And you showed it in the data. The number of tests significantly increased, or the number of test taking significantly increased. Nothing else has changed, correct? Like the graduation requirements, the workload for students, obviously number of days in a year hasn't changed. It seems like this is an indication of level of stress, right? Or level of competitiveness that motivates students to take the tests.
Correct.
Like something is driving this, right? What are we doing in order to help these kids to give them, like, I want to support the opportunity to take the test. If students want to take the test and proceed with AP for whatever reason, we should support it. But can we do anything that makes it easier?
Multi-prong approach to try to communicate informed decision-making and avoid the pressure. One, during course selection signups, our sites have what's called a time allocation budget, where they plan in how many classes that they're taking, is it AP honors or not, and how many hours a week that would have in homework. Do you have extracurriculars, job, family, et cetera? And then you add up all the hours and you ask yourself, am I way over the number of hours that a week provides? If so, I mean, that's a non-negotiable. And let's go back to the courses and say, which courses may I need to reduce to a lower homework load so that I can actually manage my life? We couple that with ongoing communications around students with stress, well-being, and AP. Counselors meeting with students saying, whoa, Vadim, you signed up for 4 math classes, plus you play 3 different sports. Let's talk about the time of day and how this is going to impact you. Plus parent presentations. Every parent has counseling presentations every year, and this wellness piece is communicated in addition to counseling one-on-ones with the students. So it is not due to lack of work and intentional communication from our sites to both students, with counselors themselves, to parents with structures like the time worksheet. And I'll just share with you, a couple of my friends and colleagues have kids in high school, and they will say, I try to get my kid not to take 4 classes, and he just won't listen to me because all of his friends are taking these classes. And so it is a battle that unfortunately is not unique to MVLA. When I talk to my counterparts at other high school districts, we're all feeling the same challenge of if no cap for AP, then that peer pressure can drive it up. despite all of the attempts. And we see that with math acceleration as well. We're seeing middle school students now feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to be in Algebra 2 by the time I get to high school. That has never been the case over the past years. And now starting in middle school, our seventh graders are stressed out that they're not going to get into Algebra 2 by ninth grade. And some of them are pushing even further that they want to be above and go into trig. So there definitely is this system pressure, peer pressure system. And despite all of our communications that we have, it seems to, be taking over their intentional decision making. Yeah.
I agree with you. It's a problem. In Palo Alto, they're talking about having differential equations, which to me is like, sure, if you're taking college now and you're taking college courses, sure, take differential equations. Absolutely. We have students who are taking differential equations, but to just accelerate in math and no other subject doesn't make any sense to me. If you're accelerated, then you're going to doing college now, which is a great program. And we do have accelerated students. I think the issue is that I think parents need to tell their students, they know how late their students are staying up. I told my daughter she had to go to bed at 10. Lights out. I mean, I guess she could be doing with a flashlight. She did take a number of AP classes, but also the homework that she had, would say, I don't know how much homework, and she did fewer hours of homeworks. Students vary in the amount of homework they do. For some students, it says 3 hours of homework and they're doing fine. So clearly they shouldn't be doing, they can only take one AP class. So I think it really depends on how much of a first time learner you are, which is simply an attribute you have as a student. And I agree with Dean, it's sort of this arms race of people. And I don't think it's good for the mental health of our students, because I think honestly, going to a college that fits you as a student is the best choice. My daughter chose not to go to like one of these. She could have gone to one of these. She's like, I don't want to go to any of those schools because they'll have those students that I don't like. I'm going to a small liberal arts college. And she was very happy. So I think it really, the message is like finding a college that's right for you, as opposed to like, I have to go to XYZ college and therefore I have to do XYZ APs. So you're making yourself miserable to go to a college that may or may not make you happy. So I think kind of that's the messaging I would say to parents, having had a child that, had faced all this pressure and just said, I'm going to do the number of APs I want. And also, I think restricting the bedtime, because it was like, I'm not, sorry, your sleep is more important than homework and you're going to go to bed. And if you can't manage your homework, too bad, you're going to have to drop classes. And now that's been clear with my kids since middle school.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
So anyway, sorry, that was my little rant. Okay, so now we move on to 10, the consolidated agenda. The dean or anyone else, if you have any brief clarifying questions that won't affect your vote, please raise your hands. Okay, does anyone have any items they wish to pull? Please raise your hands. Okay, all right. Do we have a?
Can I move?
You can move.
I can move that we approve consolidated items 10.1 through 10.8.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
All right, moved by Catherine, seconded by Alex. We don't have any students, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we move on to 12.0, board operations. So we have board suggestions for future board meetings. And I think we talked about some kind of math boot camp or something like that, looking at that and getting back to us. Yeah, so Terry will get back to us about that. Okay, great. If we have a substantial list of agenda items, but if anyone wants to add something else, now is the time. Okay, hearing nothing, let's move on to 12.2. Mr. Volta, do we have any communications or correspondence? Okay. All right, 12.3. Do we have any legislative updates?
Only update is that the governor has until October 13th to sign any and all of the bills that were passed on to him.
Okay, great. All right, our next meeting is October 13th, 2025, with a study session on ethnic studies at 5 p.m. and regular session at 7 p.m. and be right here at the MVLA District Office Boardroom. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right.